Good evening, everybody. Robbie Fig here, General Manager or General Manager of Happiness Co. and obviously platform host here in Happiness Aid. I say obviously because we've been doing this for quite a few months now. If you haven't come across myself, I've been with Happiness Co. for about 2 years. And if you don't know Happiness Co., we're a social enterprise that's been around for about 3 years. And of course, Happiness Aid has the ultimate goal of making sure that you have some connectedness and some outlets for all the different things that you might be going through at this current time. And hopefully you're using the platform to the best of its ability. Things like gratitude, things like perspective. It's all happening within the group that we have with over 5,000 members and a platform that has about that many visitors each week. So really proud to be bringing you something really special today. I've got a guest on the live with me tonight in Mark Irix. He's here, he's waiting. I'll get him on in a moment. But just to introduce Mark before he gets on here and to give you some context around what we'll be discussing for the next half hour or so is Mark is a great friend of Happiness Co. and he's done a Happiness Aid live with us before. And we spoke primarily around business, decision-making, and the different mindsets that go into that. So I wanted to pretty selfishly actually just revisit a few things to do with mindset, to do with how you show up in the work that you do. And we're going to do a lot of probing and questioning of Mark on how he got to those pillars or peaks within his life. So we're going to go through a lot in the next half hour. Hopefully it brings you a lot of value. And that's what Happiness Aid here is for. That's what Happiness Aid is here for, because we've got that many different presenters on here that bring so much different value. We want to bring it from all different sides of the equation, whether it's well-being, whether it's arts and crafts with the kids, whether it's cooking with Barry. There's so many different things that we've been up to on Happiness Aid. And this mindset and business side of things is really important, especially for those that you are a little bit entrepreneurial in a way. Say that 10 times quickly. Those of you that are visionary and ambitious, these are the kinds of people that we want to be talking to. So I'm going to bring Mark into the equation as we go. Let's bring you in, Marcus. Just now. No, Jules, it's not your jumper, mate. It's my jumper. Wembley Football Club represent. You went to one training session and came last in the 2K time trial. That I was going to blast you then, but it didn't quite work. Just adding in Mark now. Hopefully he's got that request within his notifications that we've asked for him to jump on the call. In the meantime, guys, if you've got any questions around mindset, business, the financial world, anything you think that someone with a whole plethora of successful businesses and ventures has under his guidance might be able to help you with branding, the way you sell, being authentic, all these different things that we're going to touch upon. Mark, there should be a little invite there for you, mate. Here we are.
Hey, mate.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me? Because I had this other stuff I was using and I had this funny thing, but when I plug it in, I don't think I can hear.
It is a bit echoey, mate.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
That's so much better. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
How good that? Awesome, mate. We got through our technology stuff a lot quicker than last time, although that was done pretty quickly as well. Just going to shout out to Barbara. Hello, how are you? Kerry, Jules, Andrew, Alexandra, all watching with us at the moment. And as I said in the introduction, Mark, I'm not sure if you were watching along there, but we were just talking about what we're going to talk about, which is mindset, the way that we can approach different challenges in life, not necessarily business, but that's a big part of it. And I think my personal opinion is that if you deal with challenges in life really well, you're probably pretty set to become someone that can obviously make a living off getting through challenges, which is ultimately owning a business. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's a skill set. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, I remember when Shelley was looking to change her career a number of
This
years
is
ago,
your
and
your wife,
my
Shelley. Yep.
wife, yeah, and she was saying, "Oh, all I've ever been is a teacher, and I've done that for 30 years." And I try to convince her that the skills that she picked up as a teacher, and as a mother, and as a friend, and as all the roles that she played in her life, transfer over to so many areas because most of life is around um, personal relationships, and the actual skills that you need in a specific job can be easily learnt. But you find that most jobs you go there thinking, I'm going to have no idea what to do here. And you arrive thinking, wow, I'm eminently qualified because there's stuff that I know that they wouldn't even teach me that I can add value
Yeah.
to them on. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And I was having a conversation just today with one of our newest staff members, Lockie Samuel, and we were talking about how hard it is sometimes to see your worth or see your value, because sometimes it feels a bit, I don't know, vain. You know, people get worried about showing their ego too much in, say, a workplace or a team of any sort, right? Even within your
for
family
sure.
unit. So, what advice do you have for someone? Because that's a mindset thing, right? That's a mindset hack that we can kick off with is how do you show value, see value in yourself, and how do you translate that over into being successful and happy and having a list of things you can be stoked about?
For sure. I think the most important thing is most people don't know what they're brilliant at because this is what they're good
Mm,
at. They don't know that their skill, unless it's you're a football player and you're playing the AFL, that's probably a little bit different. But as we
mm,
go through life, we don't necessarily know all the things that stand us against other people, or not that we're against other people, but as you go through life, you develop different skill sets, or you have natural skill sets, and
mm.
you don't know which ones are more outstanding than other people's, right? So when you find
Sure.
out what it is, you, in this world we have to stand out. Once you know what it is, tell people what it is. If you need to add value to someone in a value set or a skill set that they don't have, use it to your advantage and add value to their life by giving it to them. So we generally get jobs around the things that we're good at anyway. So stand out, show people that you're good at it, be the go-to person for that thing. So if you're good at something, let people know. Otherwise, you may never be able to use it.
Yeah, I love that, and there's an interesting concept around something like groupthink, right? At a workplace, groupthink is where everyone looks to the same person because they have the best advice all the time, you know, and then everyone just thinks like them, and that is
Yeah.
never good for a team. So, you know, how do you, or I suppose my question would be, what's your best advice for getting past the fear of sharing how good you are at something?
For sure. I don't have a problem with that ever. Right? But
But
I've
it's an
never
art,
heard
right?
the absolutely, and it's something I've practiced all my life to stand out from the crowd. Because
Mm.
I'm sure you've heard me say before, I've never met a person in my life ever who's not better than me at most things. Never.
Sure.
I mean, and I meet so many people in my life, and and most people impress me, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. How could you possibly know how to do that? What other things are you good at, right? So
Mm.
I don't try to compete with anyone on anything. I just focus on the things that I'm very good at. And when you talked about groups before, the people who generally stand out and give the most advice aren't the people with the best advice. They're just the loudest and most confident people. And you don't always get the best result. So if you know that what you have adds value, find a way to get that to the group. If you don't have the confidence to stand up in front of the group when you know that you can add value, find another way. Go and
Mm.
see someone and say, can you share this for me? Or go to the boss, and it's not about sucking up, it's about using your value to the betterment of other people, right? If you know that your value is much stronger than the loud person, find a way to use it or get out because you're not going to succeed.
I love the concept of finding a way to make that known because it's very hard within, say, a meeting or a group or an environment where everyone else is watching. So, being confident enough in yourself to go to that manager or that person that has authority and share that strength with them is great advice. Going almost through a different avenue. And just a shout out to Ashley, Kaylee, how are you? And of course the other Ashley. I was trying to figure out who I'd said yes to, but Ashley, in fact, runs a group called Fusion Biz Babes, and I know that mindset and the way that her girls within her community look at mindset is super important to their business, and I think that's why they get together. And my point then and question to you, mate, is how amazing is it to be surrounded by great people to affect your mindset in positive ways?
It's absolutely necessary, right? And I'm sure you've noticed because you're one of them. My life, I surround myself with good people. If they're not good people, I have very little to do with them. I
Sure.
actively get them out of my life, and if I have to have them in my life for whatever reason, I'll have them there, and I'll be respectful towards them. But I don't make them an important part of my life where that important needs to exist at that point in time. But like, if you're not surrounding yourself by people who are better than you, you're never going to get better. If you focus your life on being around people you're better than, because it makes you feel important, you're never going to grow as a person. You might feel falsely good, but you'll never actually grow, and you won't feel truly good within yourself about growing as a human being.
Yeah, that short-term growth is never sustainable, and it goes pretty quickly, right? It's so finite, and I can see that there's some real love coming in for that quote exactly there. Hey Beck, how are you guys? Don't forget to put in any questions you have around mindset, business, maybe being a dad, whatever it is, because Mark knows a lot about it, and he's had a lot of experience in being successful at those things. Lockie says that I look dashing in that hat. Lockie, it's only because I didn't have time to do my hair. I appreciate it. I rode back from the office just before Mark, and I didn't have time to do my hair. I don't want anyone to cry over it, but that's why the hat is there, and I feel really informal interviewing someone that's so serious all the time, Mark.
I'm not serious all the time. You only
No,
see the serious side of me.
I definitely have seen the unserious side as well.
Yeah.
And Mark, I didn't want to bring it up. I know that it might be upsetting, but how did you go at golf the other day against myself, Jules, and Zach?
I haven't spoken to you about my Alzheimer's, have I?
No, you can't be selectively forgetting how you went. Mate, I really appreciate a lot of the advice you give all the time. But one thing that sticks to my mind every single time we catch up is your openness to new ideas. And I think innovation and the way that we look at ideas and how we take them from day one to day done is a key component of success in business and everything to do with business and teammates. So another question for you just from me is, how do you foster innovation, and how do you keep people coming back to you with fresh ideas, even if you're saying no sometimes?
That's so important, because I was having a discussion with my son, Scott, only this afternoon about the fact that we're doing this, because normally I'd talk to him all afternoon, and I said to him I needed to sort of get off the phone. Yeah. So the only way to be successful is to be more than yourself. And I'm not saying that no one's enough, but if you want to earn more than the average person can earn by putting in an amazing day's work, all right? Unless you're satisfied doing that, I wouldn't be. I would like to earn what 50 people could earn in a day. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that is to learn a skill, but not necessarily have to do it yourself. And that is by trusting other people, learning from other people, accepting the fact that they're going to know far more about it than you do, and then going into a business or a concept or an arrangement with those people. So looking for people who have got a skill set that you don't have, like Kerry in the gym, like Sharon at iDNA Health, like Marco at Java Juice, like you guys in Happiness, like Todd in and with the Mind Body Lounge, like those sort of people, know that you don't know much. Recognize that you don't know much, and in fact, the scarcity mindset assumes you know everything. That's an absolute scarcity mindset. It acknowledges, or it doesn't acknowledge, that you can learn so much. So going into anything, assuming that you know very little, is the best mindset to go in with, because you are so open to learning more. And what you'll find is no matter how much you know about something, someone knows something a bit different, which may be the niche in there to make, in my case, a bit more money out of it, or to get a little bit more pleasure out of it, or to get a little bit more mileage out of it. And you'll generally find that no matter how much you know about anything, someone, everyone maybe, will know something about that same subject you don't. So, sharing ideas, never knock back the opportunity to learn about something new if you want to be successful.
And I guess on the flip side of that is never be afraid to bring something new, because if you're in an environment that fosters that innovation, like you're talking about there, if it's reflected in that, I mean, it's something that holds us back, right? There's some innate thing within us that asks us to play small sometimes. So let's flip it around. What's your advice for someone going to a manager or going to a boss or someone that is in a position of authority with a new idea, and how would you like it presented from your perspective, if that makes sense? So if I'm someone going there with an idea, what's your advice for that person to bring that idea to life in terms of process and some some boxes ticked already?
It's a real hard one because there are so many perspectives to analyze this from. Am I going to my boss with a view to helping the business, or going to partnership with my boss because I've got a concept that with his money and my idea we can make more money? I mean, it depends on really how you're looking at it. But the best way to approach anything where you want to introduce your idea or new concept, I suppose, is to research it properly, get it logically thought out, and go to them with solutions, not problems. And there's nothing worse as a business owner, someone coming to you and saying, we've got this problem and you need to solve it, because if you don't solve it, I'm leaving. That sort of thing. I'd much rather someone come to me and say, hey, we do have an opportunity to enhance employee happiness or employee retention, and they're really saying that what you're doing at the moment is shit and it's not working for us. But you say, and I've also, so I'd like to deliver the problem to you, but I've got a solution as well. And the manager or the recipient of that information is going to take to it far more kindly if you're handing them an opportunity or a solution with the problem. Have I answered your question there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you simplified it beautifully, which is, come with research. Even in a lot of the stuff that we do, the first question, even if we put all the passion you can imagine, myself, all the team members, whoever's doing it, we've had this experience recently where we went with all the passion you could ask for. But if you don't bring a framework and research and evidence and proof of concept, it's very hard for someone to take an idea on. And I think there's two sides to innovation. There's the person who brings the idea and the novel uniqueness to the party, and then there's that person that has to be the gatekeeper who says yay, nay, or otherwise. So I think it's really important that you bring to that gatekeeper everything you could possibly bring. That's probably the best way to sum it up, right?
Absolutely. I suppose one thing not to forget, because I'm a pretty persistent person, right? And I really take no for an answer. So if you know that what you've got is going to work, if you know what you've got is going to add value, if you know that at the end of the day, no matter how hard you push, when you finally get through, you're going to be listened to, you really have to do that. Sometimes, I'm not saying be a bully, just back yourself, because the gatekeeper is trained to be a gatekeeper. They're not called the door opener, They're called the
Yeah,
gatekeeper, right?
yeah.
And and
Great
and they're
advice.
not they're not they're not there to keep people in the gate. They're there to keep out the gate. And let me tell you, as a business owner, we are trained naturally to say no to most people. Very
Yep.
few businesses, if you're trying to sell to them, are looking, they don't wake up in the morning thinking, I hope the salesman phones me today and tries to sell me a new concept. Unless it's broken, they won't go looking for a solution. So you might know for a fact that your product or your service or your employment to them may be so beneficial, you really need to railway road yourself through the gatekeeper in whatever way you need to do it as possible. And, you know, I always believed as a salesman, you know, going back 30 years when I was selling finance and selling finance for cars, I would phone a client and I would say to them, I'd like to come and talk to you about da da da, and they go, I'm not interested. I'd say, of course you're not interested. If you were, you would have phoned me. You didn't even know me before this phone call, right? And I'm so convinced that what I'm going to do is going to add so much value to you and your business. I'm so convinced I'm going to save you money. If I don't convince you within 10 minutes of sitting down with you, I'm going to ask you to kick me out. If you don't, I'll kick me out. I'm so convinced I can add value to it. And I've always used that approach in life with everything. And if you know that your idea is going to get through, you're probably still not going to succeed unless you get through with it.
Yeah, I love the concept of persistence, being bold, being brave, and being often, right? That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
key. So, Martin actually asked a really fantastic question. Martin, a real big advocate of workplace happiness, and especially within his own organisation, organised us to speak through Men's Health Week. So his question is similar in a way, but I'll get your take on this, Mark. How do you go approaching management or bosses with solutions and evidence for improvement if that management group aren't interested in viewing progressive opportunities? So I suppose in a way we've answered the persistence side of things, but I guess what's your best advice for influencing people that might be quite conservative with new ideas?
Okay, it really depends how big your balls are, right? Because I remember,
Or your
again,
boots or any other body part?
well, I'm talking about your guts. I mean, like, I'm pretty ballsy, right? And I remember many, many years ago, and I'll give you two answers to this, but I was in Adelaide working for a big bank, and I was selling much more than any of my counterparts around Australia. And I went back to the national manager and said, look, I want to go on no pay and just a commission structure. I'm sick of
Yep.
blokes who have been here longer getting paid more than me. You know, so back in those days, I think I was on about 50 grand a year, and I'm going back, you know, maybe 30 years. But other blokes are on 70 and 80, not writing anywhere near as much as me, but they've been there longer, and that's the way the bank did it. And I remember
Sure.
saying to my state manager, put me on no salary, just commission, a percentage commission. And he said, it's not what we do. He said, maybe in 10, 15 years' time. I said, but this is ridiculous. I'm writing $2 million a month in finance for cars. This guy here is writing a couple of $100,000, and he's getting paid more than me because you don't recognise commissions because we work for a bank. And he goes, yeah, you got it right. That's it. Well, I went out there and started Easy Fleet. All right.
Yeah, right.
I
Yep.
decided to leave the industry and start up my own company in an area I felt I had expertise in. And I got backing. I had no money in those days. I phoned John Hughes. I told him I had an idea that involved money for cars and I could find a way to join it to his business. Was he interested? He said yes, and the rest was history. But you have to do what you have to do. And I would keep pushing it. And if it's something you're passionate about and something that you know will work, just keep pushing it. Of course, if you're not as ballsy, using the right, that same phrase as I was, you're probably not going to get it through, and that's unfortunate. But I can tell you that most of the best ideas in the world are still lying on the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the solution to batteries is they could have come up with it a lot longer ago, but there's so much money in disposable batteries no one wanted to find a solution to it.
Of
So
course.
this,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
yeah,
So innovation is stifled by obviously agenda and different ideas, and I suppose
greed,
just to,
jealousy, yeah,
of course, yeah. No, you're spot on, and I think to further the response to yourself there, Martin. I mean, it depends obviously what you're going to them with. If it's a business related idea, that's one thing, furthering, things like revenue and growth and blah, blah, blah. But if it's something, let's talk workplace happiness, for example, and it's an idea to help the people within the organization, drive yourself with passion, drive yourself with vision, and you'll end up in a space where you feel comfortable either going above the people that are roadblocking, for example. And if you take enough evidence and enough solutions, I'm positive that you'll convince anyone above that it's good for the organization and good for the people. So keep driving, Martin. Keep being that amazing person you are in terms of advocating the best for the individuals within the organization. And you'll probably attest to this, Mark, that great individuals within an organization is your best outcome, rather than just having an income driving, revenue raising kind of business. You'd rather have great people within that organization who have everyone else's happiness and positive outcomes in mind, right?
there's no doubt about that. Gone are the days where it's money driven.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many other areas which uh, started out, some of them to be platitudinal, but
Mm-hmm.
we've grown as human beings. We've grown as society because these things that the environment and people relationships, all those sort of things. It's added value to the bottom line anyway, because if you have
Yeah.
a workforce that's not happy and you're not looking after them and they keep going to your opposition, you're not going to make any money anyway. You're not going to make the most you can if it's about money for you. But it's not platitudinal anymore. The people are important, the environment's important, and and just the whole relationship side of thing, and money's important. So
Of course,
yeah,
it's always an organic outcome of people working together, right? And
yeah.
working together for a common cause. And Cassandra, who is a huge advocate within the events industry at the moment, which has taken a massive hit, particularly here in WA with things like tourism and location-based events. But Cass runs some awesome stuff, and she says sometimes even the best idea doesn't fly. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It could be the wrong client, could be bad timing. Maybe you just weren't on for your pitch, but don't give up. And I love that advice. Would you agree with that, mate?
Mate, I couldn't have said that better. In fact, I wouldn't have thought as good enough words to say that with, because that's dead right. I mean, sometimes it can be the perfect idea, pitched to the perfect person at the wrong time. And let me tell you, for things to go perfectly well in life, everything has to line up for it to go perfectly well. So the best plans, the best endeavours, the best pitch, and you couldn't have done any of that better, but provided to the wrong person on the right day, or the right person on the wrong day, and sometimes you never know where it fell over, and you were 99.9% of the way there, and it fell over. So don't give up, ever. Yeah.
Yeah, you never quite know where that extra step could have taken you. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. And I've had that experience recently, as recently as last year, where you think you've got that idea that's going to get across the line, and someone puts up a hurdle, and you're not sure what the hurdle was. You know it's there. You don't know how long it is, how high it is, how wide it was, and if you can get under it or over it. But you've got to kind of just turn to the right angle and see if you can go a different route. And I think that's exactly what Jules has just mentioned here as well in his comment, which is you got to believe in your idea no matter what. Be brave to push it regardless of outcome. And I think regardless of outcome is a fantastic way to segue into your thoughts on this, Mark, which is, you're going to piss some people off sometimes, right? You're going to annoy and frustrate some people. What's your advice around, not being, no one wants to be a dick. No one wants to be a person that, grates people and is, combative. what do you suggest in terms of making sure that, you're still nice to people, but you can say no, you're still nice to people, but you can, push and do it regardless of outcome?
I, I think we have to all recognise that we are individuals, and as individuals, we matter, we're important, and I mean, and just as an individual, looking at other people, no matter how important I might think I am, every other person in the world is more important than me to them,
Sure.
right? I mean, yeah, I mean, so, and people have too many hang-ups around what other people think or how they compare with other people. But I love explaining to people that whatever you think someone's thinking about you, they're probably not even thinking about you. All right. So when you walk into somewhere and think, oh God, I don't belong here. Well, they're probably thinking, I don't belong here. Nobody
Yeah.
is sitting there going like, you don't belong here.
Yeah,
Unless
sure.
you dress up as a giraffe at a dwarf's party, right? But you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but I'm
Yeah,
just
I
talking
think
about
so, yeah.
in life. Yeah. So as you go through life, recognize that whatever limitation, whatever scarcity thought you have about yourself, no one else has that. You need to get the best outcome for you. And I'm not saying do piss other people off, but it's not about pissing them off. Everyone recognizes that everyone wants the best outcome for them. Now, you just have to do that intellectually. You have to do that with kindness, and then you have to do that in a way that you're not detracting from other people. So I've found, and I've been very successful in business, I've failed in business as well, and where I've looked back at my failures, it's generally been where I've stacked it in my favour. So if
Sure.
I've stacked the business in my favour, I may have got away from it with it for a little while, but that's not how to be successful in business because you'll get caught out. And unless you're keeping an eye on it and checking the books and keeping things covered over and keeping secrets, you're going to get found out. So there's one other way of doing it. Go into lots of businesses with lots of people and look after them more so than you look after yourself. Give them a little bit more than you give yourself. Okay, so then they'll listen to you. Right? They know whatever deal I do with him, he's going to get something out of it, but I'm either going to go get at least half of it or a little bit more. So long as you're recognizing that your focus, whilst your focus might be on you because you are the most important thing to you, the best way to get an outcome that you deserve there is make it about we, not me, to make it about them or us, not me, and to make it about as many other people and adding value to them and you just getting a benefit from it. So
Fantastic.
yeah.
That mindset right there around the we not me. I think all too often when people get visionary or they get forward thinking, they can forget the people that can help them get there. And it's a really important thing to think about. If you've got a great idea, and again, I always come back to this, and I always bring up Justin Langer when I can. But JL said, I didn't go to Harvard, but I employed a lot of people who did. And I know that rings true with so many people who are successful in business because they might have the idea, they might have the vision, but you really need to have the people that underpin, the people that help you. There's a couple of people on this call right now who underpin the whole of Happiness Co. That are not the face, that are not the front end public speaking team, that are not the facilitators, but they do incredible work behind the scenes to lift up the brand and to make sure that we appear in the best way possible. People like Priya, people like Hannah, people like Michelle, and a big shout out to them because I know that this whole platform, for example, doesn't exist without people like that, but it came from the idea of one person. So it's about making sure that we have this collective mindset. And I think that's a fantastic point you make, mate. Cass also says, that's so true. We make stuff up about ourselves all the time. Or sometimes she says, but I think we do it quite often. Conspiracy thinking, as we talk about at Happiness Co. Everyone knows a good conspiracy theory. Hopefully you're not telling too many conspiracy theories about yourself, people. A shout out to Nicole, who's joined us late in the piece, Abby as well, Sam Maguire, how are you? Andrew Maguire, two Maguires. Are you guys related? But anyway, Mark, I just want to wrap up today, and we always do this on the Q&As. I know last time you had some awesome quotes that you shared with us, but I want to ask you a bit of a different one. What is your favorite piece of advice around when you wake up in the morning and set yourself up for the day? What can you give people on the call? Because, you know, Happiness 8 is about mental health and well-being at the end of the day, and the best way to operate is with something early in the day. What's your key to your day?
I'm a creature of habit, and we had a similar discussion last time we chatted, and I'm successful because I'm not into certainty. I've said this to you before. I'm into uncertainty because I have so much certainty in my natural life. I need uncertainty. All right.
Sure.
But the sort of things that I'm certain about is the way I arrive to everything. I arrive ready and full of energy. And I
Sometimes
wake up
on
in the
your
morning, mostly on my scooter these days. But I arrive in the morning, generally about 2 minutes to 5, because my alarm's going to go off at 5, and my body's far more excited to get up well before that or before that. And I get up and I try to beat it so I can turn it off so Shelley doesn't wake up. And then I jump out of bed and I'm in the gym. I stretch. I'm in the gym with my neighbour these days. I've always done it with someone. So Nick from across the road comes at 5:30.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Keeping the rig
Shout
in
out
check.
to Nick. Yeah. I do an hour in the gym. Never miss it. And then I'll jump in the sauna for about a half an hour. And then I'm ready for my day. And without doing that, I'm just not ready for my day. And you know, I had massive health problems. 3 years ago, I had a heart attack and had a defibrillator and a pacemaker put in a few months later. Except for the days I was in intensive care and then recovering for a few weeks afterwards, I was in that gym for that hour, unable to move. But I lay on the floor on a mat and I imagined going through that process. I never went through it for probably a good year because I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk up a slight slope for about a year. And I was in a pretty bad way. But I was determined to never interfere with the pattern of getting out of bed, albeit climbing on my backside down the stairs, laying in there for that same period of time. So I believe if you pick something that works and stick with it, you'll get through anything and you'll be ready for the day full of energy.
Mate, that's fantastic advice. Set the tone, and if you can't set the tone, visualize it. You know, there's no excuses, and I think that a lot of people will take some heat from that, and hopefully put that into their day tomorrow. Refuse to snooze is a good way to set up your day. From a Happiness Co perspective, we always talk about that. I'm guilty of it. Don't worry, no judgment. But you know, if you're going to be regularly successful with your day, however that looks to you, you know, be grateful, be prepared, and make sure that you contribute to the people around you. I think is the best way to sum up what you've mentioned today, Mark. And as always, mate, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. You've got that spark about you that a lot of people will appreciate. And if you're watching this in replay, feel free to put up some questions. I'm sure Mark will come back and revisit some and bang out or type out a couple of answers and solutions if he's got some in his mind. But to everyone that's joined us, Alison, Bex, who just jumped on, and the people that obviously participated with their questions, massive shout out to you. And thanks once again, Mark. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, mate, just keep up the good work. I'm just loving you guys, you know, being part of what you're doing and you being part of what we're doing. And you easily won that game of golf, and I look forward to the challenge.
I didn't actually win. Okay, to be honest, when I played
You beat me.
But you know, you just mentioned that you had a heart attack and a pacemaker, so you know I feel bad now. But anyway, when it comes to Jules, you know, if I beat him, that's my day complete. It doesn't matter that Zach beat me by a shot or two, and it doesn't matter that he was awesome at golf, and maybe I wasn't as good. That doesn't matter to me.
I look
And
forward to the next one. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got to compete with little Brooklyn for time now in terms of
Of course.
Julian's little baby. If you haven't heard the news, Julian
Of course.
posted, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
yesterday about it. So it's public now. Beautiful little Brooklyn, and shout out to Mon, his partner, who did an incredible job of making a gem of a human.
Yeah. All good. All
Lovely.
fantastic.
Mate, thanks
Mate,
so much, and we'll catch you soon.
always a pleasure. Thanks, Robbie. See you
Thanks, Mark.
guys.
Have a good one, mate.
Bye.
See ya.
You too, mate. Bye.